Distinguished panelists. I was sitting in the midst of engineers thinking as to what I bring in terms of value creation, because Professor Shafiqul Islam has been sort of alluding that we should create a value in the transboundary water resources here. So, I will come from that angle. Now, the transboundary water sharing is anchored in a multiple way. It is anchored at the intersection between India and Bangladesh's relation. So that's one. But it doesn't stop there. It is also anchored within the larger regional and global relationship. If we think that it is only India-Bangladesh relationship, we will utterly go wrong. Because I think bilateral relations over the years has evolved to become a regional, even a global issue. Directly, others may not be creating an influence, but the influence will always remain. So that's one assumption. The second one is that transboundary issues are geostrategic issues. These are not purely, it's not water, it is geostrategic water. That's what we are talking about. So it needs a little bigger frame than we normally take up with. And this whole water issue is based on the intersection of security, sovereignty, economic, environment, engineering, and geopolitics. So it is not that easy to negotiate an instrument even with Bhutan, forget about India, because it is basically a power relation. You are actually negotiating between the powers. It's like a wrestling. It doesn't come easy. So here we can say a lot of things, but when it comes to the real negotiation, it is basically power play. And Bangladesh is what? 20th in the power structure, and India is on 3rd power structure, and the gap is huge. So in every table you will see the manifestation of the power. What do you do with that? What kind of an ethics, morality, interest and values you bring in? It doesn't work. Look at the incoming president of America. He's thinking so powerful that he can even buy another country. So see where the mentality is. This is the manifestation of power, raw power. So that's the second assumption. Now, I will not take much of a time. I wish I could share some of the experience that we went through while negotiating transboundary issues, even in the context not as a new review, but in the context of bringing it into the joint declarations between prime ministers. So, but I hope I'll bring in some in terms of challenges. Second is, often questions are raised that whether there is enough capacity in the government or in the state of Bangladesh to bring in the technical knowledge onto the table. Absolutely. Our GRC has a, you'll be surprised how much knowledge over the year GRC has gathered. I have an experience of taking help from them. Immense. Immense. So we shouldn't doubt the capacity of this thing. But what happens is the power relation. Now, when we negotiate water sharing, we are not negotiating only water sharing. We are also negotiating border issues. We are also negotiating trade. We are also negotiating other issues. So it's a quid pro quo. We give in somewhere, we take somewhere else. And in the process, we are 20th in the power structure. We are not a nuclear power. Always remember that. So that's the reality check. We can be idealist, but it will not take us long place. I'll shortcut it. I know there are other speakers. So where is the issue? Issue is outlook and mindset of two countries, Bangladesh and India in this case. The whole, if you read us from the Indian side, because I was based in JNU and I've interacted with students and I've seen how they look at Bangladesh. Similarly, we also see how Bangladeshis look at India. So there's a huge mismatch, gap between the two countries. The whole mindset seems to be not in line with the type of environment where we can have a realist-based negotiation. So that leads me to say that there's a huge trust deficit between the two countries. So when there's a trust deficit, and those who are business people, they know, if there's no trust between the two companies, there's no deal. As simple as that. Even if that deal makes everybody win-win, they will not have a deal because they don't know what's behind that deal. So that's the second issue. The third issue is the whole issue of balancing between our national interests and our international obligations. There has been a talk about signing conventions. The moment you sign conventions, you also undertake certain responsibilities as a state unilaterally. So in that case, there will be a huge responsibility on Bangladesh to make the environment of the rivers and adjacent areas in line with international standards. That will also obligate it. This comes fairly obvious in the labor agreements. The moment you sign labor conventions, we think that we have established the right of our workforce here. Yes, but then you also take some responsibilities and obligations for which you have to make resources available. So think about it. It's not as straight as possible. Otherwise, everybody would have signed it. I'm not against signing. The question is, when you sit down for this type of a negotiation, are you guided by only your national interests or your values? There comes the whole issue of environment. The value that we promote as Bangladesh in terms of environment, India may not be promoting the same values. So how do you actually sell it then? They said, you remember the famous saying of Stockholm Conference of Indira Gandhi, that poverty is my environmental issue. The whole environment of that conference changed by one. He said, look, India is not in a place where we can talk about the environment. It's the poverty which is the environment, in my case. And the whole narrative changed for that conference. So we have moved from there anyway. So that's just to give you an example. Now, question is, what we do. In Bangladesh-India relationship, there always have been ups and downs. It has never been straight. It went up, it went down. It went up, it went down. And that's a reality. When you have an aspiring power next to your border, you will feel the wind. That's why America goes and tells Canada that you try and become the 51st state of America. It's the wind of power, the big neighbors. Both China and India is aspiring. The worst part of it that they are fighting each other to become the more prominent, dominant, whatever you call, powerful state in this region. And we are in the. So when you're talking about transboundary issue bringing in China and India, being a smaller player, you have to be very careful. You might burn your finger badly. So that's the situation. Now, is there a way out? Of course there is a way out. There's always a way out. And which is, play your cards properly. Now, as diplomats, I'm not bringing the JRC, as diplomats, we are very land-centric. Trade, power, purchase, UN, all land-centric. Although Bangladesh is surrounded by rivers, we are a riverine country, but in our policy-making angle, I've seen that we are very much land-centric. We almost forget that we are a riverine country and we have a huge maritime. It took us for a decade to make everybody aware that our third neighbor is Bay of Bengal. So we have three rivers, India, Myanmar and Bay of Bengal. Even then people say, what about how can it be a neighbor? I said, have that perception. It will help you in formulating your own policies. So, that's what it is. Hydro-diplomacy as a subset of diplomacy has evolved. I must confess and take the share of blame as well that we have not built our capacity to negotiate on the water front much. We had in the Foreign Office we had our seniors around say early 90s, mid 90s is a very trained, experienced diplomats. After the Ganges Treaty, somehow or other we dropped the ball, and we have not, despite our efforts, been able to create a new group of diplomats who take on the baton and do the negotiation. These kinds of a discussion will be very useful. I know some of the Foreign Office senior colleagues are listening. So for them, yes, there's time. Train your younger lords to be able to fight out a good battle. I call it a battle. And JRC is always there for you to help you in terms of evidence and resources. Thank you.
Thank you.